there's a couple of things that have gone into why the market has been so relatively choppy in recent weeks. One is there's just an incredible glut of SPACs in the marketplace right now. Some of our target side clients are having 5 or 6 SPACs compete for their attention. And so a lot of times when we represent targets, we have kind of dueling LOIs going with 5 or 6 different parties, and we're kind of negotiating the best one to go forward with. So there is a relative lack of highly qualified targets to go around, and so I think a lot of SPAC sponsors are cognizant of that as they're proceeding through the IPO process. I would also say there's an increasing sense that more regulatory scrutiny is coming down the pike here. I guess the first inkling of that was last fall when Jay Clayton, who was then the chair of the SEC, gave an interview with CNBC where he talked really just for like 3 minutes about SPACs. And 2 minutes of that interview was dedicated to how great SPACs are and how wonderful it is that it's offering an alternative to private companies that are looking to access public markets. But then he did say that the SEC was starting to have concerns about transparency with the SPAC structure, and in particular with respect to the incentives that the sponsors of the SPAC have both at the IPO stage and then particularly at the de-SPAC stage. As far as I can tell, that one remark sent the SPAC market briefly into a tailspin last fall, and then there was a quick recovery from that. But then, there has been some additional, not rulemaking, but guidance from the SEC on exactly what SPACs need to be thinking about from a disclosure perspective. And then there's just an increasing sense, at least in the legal community, that particularly with the change in administration in Washington and with a new Democratic majority on the SEC, that they're taking an ever closer look at the SPAC structure and whether or not everything about the structure is adequately disclosed to investors. I guess a mini trend that we have observed recently is that some operating companies have started to set up their own SPAC subsidiaries in furtherance of an acquisition strategy, which is entirely new this year. Previously, the idea was that you could never have a particular acquisition target in mind for a SPAC. Otherwise, you would have to disclose that target's business and financial statements in the SPAC IPO prospectus. But it seems that at least in 1 or 2 cases, the SEC has signed off on an operating company forming a subsidiary that is a SPAC with the intention of ultimately merging both with the operating company parent and then with 1 or more other third-party targets that are private companies. So it'll be interesting to see how that structure plays out and if it becomes more widely adopted in the marketplace. I've only seen a couple of them so far, so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with that going forward.